So it's a little early to start thinking about summer. Some of you would say it's just November, maybe the second week or so. But if you think about it, it's only six months away. And 6 months is not a very long time. We also have winter break and Thanksgiving coming up. This gives us students a wonderful opportunity to wisely use their time instead of playing video games like I used to do in high school. I think that I'm not here to be a hypocrite and say you can't play video games and you just have to study chemistry every day. But I want to give you a few suggestions on how to better manage your time and how to maybe make the best use of that time as well. There are going to be a lot of summer programs, and juniors, I want you to listen up because I'm sure that you may have heard of something like Cosmos, which is hosted by the UC campuses. You want to start taking a look at the application as soon as you can because that application will actually be due in about March. So if you think about it, that only gives you about 4 months of preparation. So you probably want to start taking a look at the application itself. You also want to look at the cluster choices they have available so you can pick what class you want to take. And more importantly, you're going to want to look at the essay questions so that you can actually start to think about how you want to answer those. All right. So just as a friendly reminder, these deadlines are between January and March. I know I mentioned Cosmos, which is in March, but the more competitive summer programs, they're actually due a little bit earlier. They're doing about January. So like I said, if you're a junior in the crowd right now, you may want to start doing your research immediately, starting either tonight or better yet yesterday, so you can figure out what you're going to be doing over the summer. All right. And lastly, this phrase, this term that we use, to plan ahead, is something that our parents throw at us all the time. It's something that your teachers probably tell you. It's going to be something that I tell you today. But I can't stress it enough. There's nothing worse than procrastination, and there's nothing better than being proactive. So I want to really encourage all of you to really plan ahead and to understand what you're in for, and better yet, what everyone knows. GPA is important, but how important really is it? It is the golden standard. So if you are struggling in school, and let's say you're getting straight B's or even straight C's, right, you really want to make it your immediate goal to boost that GPA as much as possible. No amount of summer programs, no amount of how well your essays are written will not save you. GPA is the most important thing. Okay? After that, of course, I'm sure at least everyone in here knows about the SAT or at least the ACT. Test preparation extremely important as well because it's that second number that colleges will be looking at. After your GPA, they will stratify or split you up based on your SAT score. And lastly, this is probably the most intangible thing that is less emphasized in our Asian cultures. The idea of personal experience or extracurricular activity. I think GPA and test score, that's very traditional for us. You get a book, you buy it from Barnes & Noble, you spend all summer, you do all the practice tests. It's very straightforward. But when two students apply to Stanford, and both have 4.0 GPAs, both have 2350 for the sake of argument, so they're not perfect. They're always going to choose the student who has more significant life experience, the student who is more mature, the student who has perspective. These are things that textbooks cannot teach you. Sure, you may be able to garner bits and pieces if you're an avid reader and you've read a lot of novels, but even then, it would pale in comparison to actually putting yourself out there and actually tasting life a little bit. We'll get into that more specifically on how you can actually enrich. We haven't had a chance to really talk specifically about what you can do this summer. More than anything, the important thing is to do something that you're passionate about. And of course, you need to use a bit of logic in that as well. If your passion is, for example, painting, right? That's fine, that's great. Right? But if you just paint by yourself in a studio all summer and no one ever sees your work, there's no point to it. Right? You have to do something that you can share with other people, that other people can recognize and realize that you have this passion for. Right? So I want to encourage students, if there's something that you love to do, for example, if it's track and field, right? I'm not saying that you should try to be the best track and field or an Olympic athlete, but you should give it your best. And most importantly, you should probably keep a journal every day and start reflecting on why you like this experience so much. I think the reason I emphasize this so much is because by the time students get to their college essays, a lot of them usually don't know who they are. And the hardest part about creating a successful college application is knowing who you are and knowing what you want, and showing people that you understand these complicated adult ideas. So no matter what you do this summer, the first thing I want you to do is try to keep a journal, keep a note, keep a blog. It's so easy these days. Just go to WordPress.com, Tumblr, whatever it is. Right? Take notes. You don't have to share it with anybody. It could be your own little private stash journal. Right? More importantly, the idea is that you're thinking about what you're doing and you're writing it down and you're collecting it all together. Right? So for your science kids, you may want to take a science camp, you may want to attend a science camp or do a research project, or perhaps invent something as creative as you want to be. If you're more humanities driven, maybe you want to make a list of 5 to 10 novels that you're actually going to be able to get through and not just read and enjoy, but analyze. If you're a business student, best advice I can give you is actually try to start a business. If you're serious about wanting to study economics at the Ivy League level or even at Berkeley or LA, it's one thing to be able to crunch numbers. It's another thing to develop some experience that will give you the sense of how to deal with people. Right? And that's something that's invaluable and that can usually not be taught in the high school classroom. Right? No matter what you do though, most importantly, you have to know your options. You have to know what's out there. Right? So I want to encourage all of you to really kind of get the ball rolling. I'm sure all of you know how to use the internet, I hope. If not, then we may want to think about other options than college. Just kidding, by the way. So you want to do your research. More importantly, I want to encourage students to take a risk. All right? This doesn't mean go out and start fights with everybody that you see. All right? But it means to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. If you've been only going to math camp for the past 7 years, maybe you should go to math camp and science camp and dance camp. Try new things. The idea is don't sell yourself short. Don't limit yourself to what you know. You want to really try to expand your horizons, to use a rather cheesy tagline. Like I said, you want to try something new, and most importantly, I know this may sound like an abstract idea, you want to pursue experiences that are going to enrich your perspective. All right? I think one of the downsides to coming from Cupertino is the fact that you are from Cupertino. It is a disadvantage. And the reason why is if you look around the room, if you go to Monte Vista, if you go to Limbrook, if you look around, we do not live in the most diverse neighborhood. And it works against us because it's hard for us to differentiate ourselves from one another. If you look into a crowd of Monte Vista students, it's hard to pick out your friends. There's 3 other people that look like your friends, or there could be at least. So I really want to encourage you to be able to say something different other than what everyone else in Cupertino is saying, because that's what's going to set you apart. That's what's going to make the difference between Berkeley or Stanford. All right. Lastly, I just want to emphasize the idea of research. I think this is the most important part of planning ahead. Knowing what's out there. Please be Google savvy. If you're using Bing, that's fine. Just know how to use it. Know how to adjust your search queries so that you can get new results, even though you're searching on the same topic. All right. If you don't know, you may want to ask me later. Most importantly, you have to know what's out there, all right? So it could be something as simple as 2013 summer internships for science high school students, right? That's my little clue to you. Start with that and then go from there, all right? Of course, you're going to want to know when deadlines are, all right? And how fast the application is. If it's just your name, address, and a $50 check, that's rather easy. You don't have to worry about it. But if it's, let's say, 8 pages of personal information followed by 3 short essays and then 2 long ones, well, you probably want to know about that a week before the deadline, much more than a week before the deadline. All right? And some summer programs will actually require teacher recommendations. All right? So all of those of you who are quiet in class and never ask questions and just walk in and walk out when the bell rings, this is your chance to kind of change your habits a little bit, get on the radar, maybe be nice to your teachers so that you can get something out of them. You do want them to like you because if they say nice things, other people will think nice things about you as well. Lastly, what should your activities sound like? What should these essays read like? All right? I've had students actually tell me I did nothing last summer. And I was very, very sad for that because, I mean, it's summer. You have 2.5 months of free time. You'll never have it again after high school. You should be doing something. All right? So I guess even if you do nothing, all right, that's all right. But you want to make it sound more interesting at the very least, okay? Right? A lot of students of mine, they go on mission trips, and I think that's a phenomenal thing. It's usually a very enriching experience for them as well, all right? But oftentimes their essays are stories about the children that they worked with, or maybe the harsh conditions that they had never realized before. That's not enough. Everyone sees that. Everyone experiences that. You actually don't even need to go on a mission trip to experience that. You can look at pictures, National Geographic, and understand that exists. Right? But what did you learn about yourself? What did hanging out with those kids who live in this completely different planet, but have the same exact ideas and interests as you, what did that make you realize about life? Right? So that's one of those questions I want to ask you. Right? What is it that connects us, even though we live these vastly different lives? Right? So if you go on a mission trip, let's say either to Arizona, whether it's to Mongolia, it's to the Philippines, wherever it is, whoever you connect with, right? Really, really, I want you to reflect on that experience and think about, be able to try to put into words what it is that drew you together and kept you together. All right. Lastly, I just say this because once again, I know we have several engineers in the room, or future engineers. I went to a science camp. A lot of students say, oh, I went to Cosmos, it was great, I made new friends. I learned about electrophotosynthesis, electrohydrolysis. Excuse me, my science is not as good as it used to be. So you throw these names around and say these generic things, but once again, it doesn't tell me anything about their experience. I think the best Cosmos essay I ever read talked about how being in an environment where everyone else was focused on the same goal, in the same science, in the same project, really inspired students to think creatively and outside of the box. And most importantly, it excited him about becoming a scientist. It made him really passionate about biomedical engineering, of all things. And it wasn't the science that interested him, it was the people. It was in working with the other people that really got him excited about, I guess, becoming a doctor and practicing in the field. I helped this student write this essay about 7 years ago, and he's in med school now. So I think that it goes a very long way. Not only do you want to attend the summer camp because it'll help you explore your interests, right? But most importantly, it'll help you learn something about yourself. It'll help you learn something about what you want, where you fit in, and perhaps where you're going to be.